everyone. Rachel Britton here. All of you already know that, but I just thought I would jump on to share some quick tips on how to silence your inner critic, and how to learn how to like find your inner self, your core. And I really wanted to jump on here. I'm gonna make sure that I can see if anyone comments. How do I do that here? Okay. Well, I just wanted to, I don't know if I can, oh, I can see the comments over there. So what I really wanted to focus on is I've been thinking a lot about like inner critics that we have for ourselves. But also one thing, I don't know if I shared it on here or not, but I'm working on really trying to not second guess myself and really making decisions that, because when I make decisions, I really do think them through. And so when I take that time to think them through and then I start second guessing myself after, I just find this way of like not believing in myself or feeling like I have to rely on other people's opinions to make sure that my idea was correct. And a lot of you know that I am a coach for a program that focuses on health, but I'm also a psychologist. And so within the program that I do and that I coach, a lot of it is about changing your mindset, not just changing the food that you're putting into your mouth. Because really what it comes down to is when we're changing a lifestyle, when we're changing our health, it starts here, right? And so the biggest thing is that if any habit that you're changing or anything that you're working on, if you're not working on where that habit came from or what the critiques are that you're telling yourself that lead to that habit, it's probably not going to change for the long term. So what we know is that a lot of times when we have certain habits, we have all this guilt surrounding the habit. So, like even if you think about food, like I love peanut butter, and when I'm grabbing that peanut butter jar and I'm like grabbing a spoon, I already have this guilt of like, I know this isn't on my program and what I'm doing at this moment, and I don't want to act on it, but I'm so in that moment, usually I have a lot of emotions going. And so the guilt before I even act on it increases, and then that makes me more emotional and wanting to eat it. So part of what we can do is really take a step back and start looking at like what are those triggers before we're even getting to the point of acting on a habit, right? So one huge trigger for so many people is our own inner critic. Yes, there we go. And we sometimes are our worst enemy, right? We tell ourselves we're not good enough. We tell ourselves that we can't do something. We hear someone's feedback, and all of a sudden we think we're a horrible person, or that I'm not going to amount to anything. And those inner critics are really they take a toll on us, right? And so one way to kind of work with that inner critic is to start challenging it. What I would recommend is to get out a piece of paper, write down all of those negative thoughts that you tell yourself on a regular basis, whether it's I'm not worthy, whether it's I'm not safe, whether it's I can't do it, I have to rely on other people to help me, whatever the thing is that you're telling yourself, write it down and be honest with yourself. This is not something to shame yourself. This is not something to put yourself down on. It's just putting it out there on a piece of paper so you can start taking control of your own life. Once you write that down, then write some positive statements next to it, like something completely opposite. You don't even have to agree with it. Just write it down. And I'm going to challenge you this week that anytime you hear that statement come up, that inner critic come up, I want you to challenge it with those positive statements. So at least 3 positive statements for that inner critic. And again, you might not believe it, but you're just practicing it. You're just practicing changing that belief to 3 positive ones. And over time, you're going to find that it actually starts shifting for you, because if we tell ourselves something enough, we start to believe it. I mean, why do you think you believe the negative beliefs that are in your head, right? It's because you've told yourself that enough times that it has gotten to the place of acting on it. So if you can start replacing it with more positive ones, that can help out in the long term. And this is also part of habits, right? Like if I tell myself that I can't control grabbing that peanut butter, then I'm going to start believing that. So if I can change that inner critic or that inner belief saying, no, I can stop myself from grabbing that peanut butter. I have this goal right now, and this is not part of that goal, then that is going to shift my mindset and I'm going to start believing it. But I have to do it over and over and over and over. It's just like anything that you're learning, right? So if I'm learning how to put makeup on, I have to practice over and over and over and over until it becomes natural for me. So that's my first hint or tip, is to silence that inner critic. You can do that by starting to replace it with some more positive information. The other thing that I wanted to share is really becoming more aware of who you are at the core, right? So like I was saying at the beginning, I take time before I make decisions. And so when I second guess myself, really what I'm doing is I'm just telling myself that that wasn't, that I'm not smart enough, or that wasn't a good enough answer or good enough idea or decision, right? That self-doubt is what actually promotes some of those inner critics within myself. And so when we're looking at our inner core, what happens sometimes is that we actually look outward to figure out who we are inward, right? But what if you're surrounding yourself with people that don't have a good idea of who you are? They think they might, but they actually might not, right? So what I would recommend is start figuring out who you are based on how, like, what, even just what you want to be, right? Because we can become who we want to be with work, right? So instead of looking outward for other people to give you that praise or to give you that information of who you are, start diving inside. Get a self-help book, reach out to a therapist, find someone that can help you figure that out. So even with a therapist or a self-help book, you're focusing more on going inward and having someone to bounce ideas off of versus someone telling you who you are, right? So those are my two ideas for you. Start thinking more about, like, what are the things that are getting in the way of us establishing these goals that we have for ourselves, or changing the habits that we have for ourselves. And start looking at how can you put more positive mindset in place, because you guys, we are actually more in control than we think we are. And the thing is that a lot of times we feel we're in control by acting on our old habits that get us in trouble, but we actually have a lot more control towards a healthier lifestyle if we really decide to. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I love helping people on their health journey. Yeah, I hope everyone has a wonderful day and start challenging that inner critic.